Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson-Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games. Here today to talk about Elijah M. Kellogg's tabletop titles. I'm going to be including a link down below for where you can look at these different titles that Elijah M. Kellogg, the designer, has put out. Basically what these are, they are tabletop skirmish games. So you're using miniatures and creating teams to enact battles on a small space. And by small space, I mean, from my understanding, that everything is in a 3x3 space, so that's really not that big of a space compared to some other tabletop games and how big those spaces might be. So 3 feet by 3 feet is really quite reasonable. So there are 3 titles currently on the website. There is Star Breach, which is a science fiction game incorporating a lot of different ideas and inspiration from different science fiction franchises, such as the Warhammer 40,000 universe, Star Wars, Predator, Aliens, all kind of a mishmash of all these different intellectual properties and ideas in a very sort of generic way, so you can incorporate them as you wish into this game. So using your own, using the rules that are there, using some of your own creativity, you can incorporate those things within Star Breach. The second one is Supers. Now, Supers is a superhero game, so you can have supers, a superhero team, maybe supers with some henchmen or some underlings or whatever, or like a henchman, or would be a word for like a superhero's, not a sidekick, but people like regular people who are helping the super as well as part of a team. So there's that one, and then the last one is NCO, which is a World War II based game. Using same rules that you're seeing in Star Breach and in Supers. Now, I say same rules, but I just want to be clear, though, that in each of the games there's rules which are the same, but they're all going to have some things which are unique to them. Obviously, things that are going to be affecting the particular genre that you're looking at. You're not going to be able to have, obviously, like superpowers in NCO, nor like in NCO would you have like the high-tech weaponry that you're going to be having, or aliens that you would have in the Star Breach. But in all 3 games, there are things which have commonalities, and I'll be talking about that in just a moment. So as of time of recording this video, I've actually only fully read through the Star Breach rules. I've started looking a little bit into the Supers, and if there's interest, I could look at the NCO as well. But currently, my main knowledge of the Elijah M. Kellogg's titles is the Star Breach. So I will be talking more around that because that is what I know currently. But in looking at the other games, one thing I have seen is that they all do use the same dice. Now, I say dice because they are dice, but there's a different system that you're using here. Those who are familiar with the game Bolt Action, this is a similar system that you have there, where you have these specific dice and you're pulling them out of a bag or an opaque container or something, so that you're not seeing which ones you're pulling. And depending on the color of the dice, so like I've got a couple here, so if say I pulled this color, that may belong to one team, whereas if it's this color, it's to the other team. So you're not knowing who's you're pulling out, and this represents the whole chaos of the battlefield, and not really sure of being able to always reliably act when you want to act. Sometimes things are just taken by surprise. Maybe the enemy is just storming forward at one point. It will all eventually balance out because there's a limited number of dice per team, 1 per character on the force. But it's just an interesting system that's employed by these games to create this kind of effect on the battlefield. Now, one of the reasons I'm looking at these games, these tabletop titles, is the fact that they are all 100% free. Now, free in terms of the rules, I mean, there's obviously always going to be things that you want to buy on top of it, whether you're buying miniatures or whether you're buying, custom dice for the game, or the terrain pieces that you're going to need, or maybe a battle mat, or there could always be expenses. But for the rules themselves, the rules, you can download them for free. And that's one of the things he says right on the website: free, fun, forever. So it's his intention to always make these rules free for people to play, to enjoy, and to have access to. Now, having said that, there was the free download for the PDF online, but if you want more content, more scenarios, more things, then he does have a book which you can purchase But the fact that, right off the bat, you don't have to spend money to try the game, to see if you like the game, to be able to play the game, is to me a wonderful thing. And I love that. And so I thought this was something that I would like to share, because as I've gone through the game now, and I've been learning about the game, and just seeing how it plays, and starting to dabble a little bit in making some of the armies, and I'm about to play my first game tonight. I've really sort of appreciate with these games a lot of the learning that comes out of them, and this is again one of the reasons why I want to look at these. So first reason I want to look at it is because it's free. The second is because there's so much great learning that happens in a game like this. For starters, obviously the big one is that you're reading the rule books. You are, even if you're not reading the rule books, you could be watching videos online. You are learning in different ways on how to play the game. Eventually, you are going to have to read the rules, because there's, whether you're just playing the game and need to reference something, the most efficient way to do that is to reference it through the rule book. So there is going to be reading. As I was creating the team, I was looking at adding up points and adding up these points and that points, and through the play of the game, it's a whole system which uses now I'm referring to Starbreach here, uses 2d6, so using 2 6-sided dice. And the 2 6-sided dice, you add those together. You add your initiative versus the other player. They roll 2d6, add their initiative, and the difference is how much damage you're doing to the other person. It's a very simple system, but I like that for the fact that you're first off, you're having to add the 2 6-sided dice, then you're having to add that to your initiative, then the other person is adding 2 6-sided dice, adding that to their initiative, and then subtracting those numbers to find the difference, subtracting any of the armor, and then subtracting that from the hit. So there's just a lot of math. Simple math, yes, but it's still a lot of math involved as you're going through playing this game. And so between the creation of the army, the playing of the game, the reading of the rules, the referencing the rules, there is just a lot of learning to be done. These are the kinds of games that I played when I was younger, that I feel were really responsible for getting my math skills to where they are today. When I was a young student, my math skills were terrible. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, all of those basic math facts were just awful. But it was only through the play of the games, through the applying them during the gameplay, and in creating teams and stuff, that's where the constant practice built my math skills. And so this is the kind of game I think is great to introduce to young people as well, to encourage them to play things like this, to not only for the fun aspect of it, but the good that comes out of it through the math skills and the reading and everything that it encourages. Plus, as they get into something like this, it encourages them to then become the lifelong learner as they play other games as well. So now I mentioned the game is free. There are going to be some things you will need. If you have a bunch of 6-sided dice, then you can use those to proxy on the different things, because as you're pulling the dice out of the bag, then you're going to be assigning orders to a person. So say I pulled out this orange dice here. I don't need to roll this in order to say what order am I giving to a person. Once I picked up the random element here for how the orders are given to the people on the table, is all strictly which dice do you pull out of the bag. Pulling an orange means I can move somebody on the orange team. Or if orange team is mine, then I will say, okay, now I'm moving one of mine. I can then choose one of the orders. Now, the different sides, see, there's different symbols. Now, you see this looks a little bit rough, and that's because I made these myself. There are dice you can order online, so if you do want to spend more money, you can order dice online, and that's one way to do it. But I actually happen to have a set of, hold up a thing here, a set of different colored cubes that I got at the dollar store, and I just sat down with a Sharpie, watched a movie, and as I was watching the movie, I drew the symbols on with the Sharpie that I needed. And it, in the time that, the hour and a half movie, I was done 22 dice. So it really doesn't take that long to do, and that can save you having the expense of having to buy dice if you don't want to. Again, I'm just trying things out right now, so until I think that I really do like this game and want to continue to invest in it, then you can do that. So as you pull out the dice, you are going to then assign an order to a person. So maybe I'm giving them an order to, this is an order to say down, like just drop to the ground and try and duck for cover. or maybe I'm mending. I'm trying to heal myself back up again. So whatever I choose, I put it next to the character on the table, and that is their order for the turn. Then we pull another dice out of the bag, and so on until it goes back and forth until all the dice are out of the bag. And another nice thing too is that this game does not have its own line of miniatures, because the idea is that you are going to be using your own miniatures that you already have from other game lines, other toys, other whatever. So if you already have a large Warhammer 40,000 collection, or even a small Warhammer 40,000 collection, if you have a team from Games Workshop's Necromunda or Kill Team, or if you have some board games which have different miniatures in them, like I think I've got Project Elite, which has a lot of great miniatures in there, which I could use for this game. I have Endure the Stars, has a lot of great miniatures I could use for this game. I've got Heroescape, a lot of great miniatures I could use for this game. If you have Star Wars, the Star Wars miniatures battle game, then those are miniatures you can use for this game. There is just a lot of different things you could be using for this game. You know, if you have miniatures for any other game, they could be used for this game. And so, you know, it's great to be able to use those. It's great to be able to get into a game without having to worry about the additional cost of buying all the miniatures associated with that specific game. And with the supers, again, my Heroescape, I've got a lot of Marvel characters that came in the supers, Marvel supers that came in the sets I have, so I can use those in the game. I'm sure I could find other miniatures from other games too, where I can use the characters from that in my when I want to play that supers game. So in the World War II, same thing. If you have any infantry from other games that you're playing, those can be used into this. In any of the games that you're going to be playing, you're going to find that the focus is on providing you with a free rule book, using miniatures that you already have. The only real thing you'd have to be looking at is dice. Like I said, you know, so if going back to these dice, if you wanted to use the like down, would be number 1. So number 1, and then number 6 would be the advance. So every symbol is going to, so you could just put a dice down next to that person. So you could just have 2 different colors of 6-sided dice in the bag, and use those. So you don't have to use those, but it's just nicer to see the orders on them, not without having to cross-reference to the chart to remind yourself which order is which number. It's a small thing, but I mean, again, making your own is always an option. So thank you to Elijah Kellogg for putting out these games. I very much look forward to trying them out, seeing what I think of the games. But from what I've seen so far, they look great, and I'm really excited for that. And I'm really happy to be able to share this with you, the viewer, so that you may hopefully inspire others to learn through the play of this game. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Until next time, I am Craig Thompson Wood, your host on Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with me?